Hello, my name's George Thomas and I'm a volunteer fireman on the West Somerset Railway, and this video is a bit about my volunteering story, some of my earliest memories of the railway, what finally got me involved 6 years ago and what keeps me coming back. So lots of volunteers on the railway, lots of people have nicknames and I'm no exception. I'm known as BBC George. It's not particularly original. And you guessed it, yeah, it's because I work at the BBC. I was given it on one of my first volunteering sessions in the mess room at Minehead Shed, and it has kind of stuck. I'm on a night shift at the moment, and I thought rather than recording this on my little beat-up mobile phone, I'd sneak into one of the radio studios. I'm a radio studio director, so I'm not usually in front of the microphone. I'm usually the other side of the glass, but it's all very quiet on a night shift, so I thought I'd sneak into. This is S32, so this is a new broadcasting house in the centre of London. And lots of Radio 4 news programmes come from here, so things like the Today programme, World at 1 PM, World Service programmes, and some 5 Live programmes at the weekend as well. So some of the great and good of broadcasting have graced this studio. John Humphreys, Michelle Hussein, Sarah Montague, Evan Davis have all been sat in front of this microphone in the past, and some pretty big names in politics as well. I certainly remember David Cameron sat in this studio, but don't worry, I'm not going to talk about railway politics in this video. I'll leave that for the online chat forums. Anyway, so some of my earliest memories of the West Somerset Railway are from the late 80s. I grew up in Oxfordshire, but my dad is from Ilfracombe in North Devon. And so I would often nag a lot that Bishop's Lydeard is a great place to stop off on the way. Sometimes my parents would relent and we'd stop off for a cup of tea and watch the trains. I do remember seeing Evening Star just about. And if I nagged really hard, then sometimes I'd be allowed a ride, maybe up the hill to Crowcombe or onto Willerton if I was lucky, and then we carry on to Ilfracombe. So I've been coming to the railway for, I suppose, 30 years on and off now, and it's always one of my favourite heritage railways, just because of, I suppose, the length, the gradients, and it's just in a beautiful area of the country, isn't it? I'm sure we'll all agree. So it's always been a railway that I'd thought of very highly, but it did take me a long time before I finally got involved. I grew up in Oxfordshire, so when I was sort of 15, 16, I started volunteering on a local heritage railway called the Charles in Wallingford. It's quite a small railway, a couple of miles long, 3 or 4 coaches, 3 08s, and occasionally a visiting steam engine. So I volunteered throughout whilst I was at uni, and then in the 2010s ended up being an 08 driver and a guard as well, and helped out. The beauty of small railways is that you just get involved in helping anything. I think I ended up running the cafe on a few occasions, doing a bit of permanent way work, wielding a paintbrush, anything and everything. But always at the back of my head, I always thought I really want to get involved in, a Premier League line. But I just always had excuses, career, house, things like that. But in 2012, 2013, I finally thought, I need to get on with this. If I'm going to do it, I need to do it. So I looked around a few railways. I actually went and did a week on the Festiniog, helped a little bit at the Swanage, looked at Gloucester, Warwickshire and Mid-Hants as well. But I went for the West Somerset in the end. And one of the main reasons is not because it's a lovely railway, but it was because of the accommodation at Minehead. There's a really, really high quality accommodation block at Minehead station which volunteers can use, and it's been there about 7 or 8 years now, and you get your own little private room, a locker, there's showers and a good kitchen where you can prepare a nice meal, or of course you can go out to one of the many fine hostelries in Minehead, and it's just so much better than any of the other accommodation on offer at the other railways I looked at. Festiniog have their own hostel, but you end up having to share a dorm with other people, and just getting your own private room in the volunteer accommodation at Minehead is really, really great, and it's something that I know a lot of people who travel from a bit further value really highly. So the process for me started, I think, in late 2013. I sent off my forms to say I was interested, and I eventually got a phone call and then got got signed up to come on a volunteer enrolment course, which just tells you about the process and little bits of health and safety and what have you. And then I had my first day on shed at Minehead as part of the cleaning gang in April 2014. And I remember being a little bit nervous about starting. You know, often you're a bit worried about the culture of an organisation and whether, you know, you'll fit in. But I needn't to worry, because everyone I met in my first day was really, really friendly. There really is a railway family. Everyone's happy to give advice, especially if there's a cup of tea involved, and there's quite a lot of tea drunk on the railway, especially on shed at Minehead, but also quite a lot of hard work. So the cleaning gang meets every other Saturday and cleans the engines, and it's a great way of getting to know how an engine works. You know, you clamber all over them, in and out of nooks and crannies, on top, polishing the brass, helping the crew get the engine ready, breaking up wood, ashing the engine out, cleaning the ash pits, cleaning the pits, and generally helping around shed, cleaning things up. And then once the service engine is left, cleaning other engines and getting involved in, you know, little bits of restoration work as well, a bit of painting here and there, a bit of scraping down. And then once a month there's a mutual improvement class, which is you'll go upstairs into a classroom and get told the ins and outs of locomotives and railway operations, and these are key to attend if you want to go on the footplate. It usually takes it depends on how much time you can put in, and a number of other factors as well, but I'd say it probably takes 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years, from starting to becoming a past cleaner. I was quite lucky because I had a little bit of railway experience beforehand, and I was able to come down in the week because I work shifts. Lots of people can only make weekends, but if you can make it in the middle of the week, then that helps with progression. So I managed to get through the system in about 15 months. And I remember my first sort of solo firing turn as a past cleaner was the end of July 2015. Red Arrows Day at Minehead, which was very, very memorable. It was on 4160. And I remember pulling into Minehead station, feeling quite pleased with myself, and just leaning out the cab as you do, looking back and seeing hundreds of people stream past the engine onto the seafront to watch the Red Arrows. I'd never seen the Red Arrows before. They are quite something. It's a real shame they don't come to Minehead anymore. I watched them from Minehead Shed, and it was a really, really memorable day. One of many I've had down on the railway. Just looking back at some of the footplate experiences I've had since I started at the railway, double-headed 7Fs, that was quite something. A 4F and a 7F at a gala. Managed to fire Camelot at a gala, the standard 5 from the Bluebell Railway. I've been on several different visiting engines at galas. Probably the day that I remember most, and was kind of like, you know, pinch yourself, wow, this is really happening type stuff, was Flying Scotsman. I was lucky enough to get a fire around trip on Flying Scotsman, and it really, really was quite something. It was, you know, the stuff childhood dreams are made of, really. I've never seen so many people by the line side. Everywhere you look, there were people pointing cameras, waving, and whenever we stopped at a platform, just well, maybe not hundreds, but, you know, a lot of people around the cab, all wanting to chat, and some of them even wanting your autograph. I signed a couple of tickets, and people wanting little lumps of coal. It was really quite a memorable day, and I was lucky to get some really good photos as well. In fact, I showed my dad afterwards some of the pictures, and my dad said to me, I got lots of photos taken. My dad said to me, the picture of me shoveling coal into Flying Scotsman, he said, "That's the happiest I've ever seen you look in a photo." I could wax lyrical about all the locos that I've heroically fired over the line, but I think it would probably turn into quite a long, boring list quite quickly. But one of the things that I really like about firing steam engines is that it's just totally different from my normal life. It's just totally different from radio. It's physical, it's in the great outdoors, and when you're on an engine, you're kind of totally consumed about making it work and making everything run as well as it could be, and the safety of the train and what have you, and you just totally forget about other things which may be going on in your mind, work or family things or what have you. It's a great escape. It really is. And there's just some brilliant people as well. And I always really enjoy coming to Minehead. There's always some friendly faces to share an ale or two over and catch up on the latest railway gossip. And I've made some real proper lifelong friends from the railway. I ended up being best man for one, and I lived with another in London in a house share. I've now got a young family, so I don't quite get down the railway as often as I'd like, maybe once a month or so. But I always thoroughly enjoy my time. And if you're thinking, volunteering, go on, take the plunge. I can almost guarantee you won't regret it.